My name is Kerry Siebold. I'm a drywall project manager and act as a point of contact when we do combination projects with other departments.
Very good. So this particular project we're talking about today was for the Museum of Fine Arts Houston.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It is the most unique project I've been associated with here at Marek. I've worked here for 6 years, going on 7, and it's likely one of the most unique projects Marek has done. I think it's unique in the manner that it's a 22,000 square foot area on the upper brown area of the Museum of Fine Arts, and we went in there, couldn't damage or attach to any of the existing surfaces, and had to build, I call them pods, but individual pods or rooms that you go in and experience the art, which James Turrell is the artist, and yeah, it's a very complicated project.
So you created the spaces by adding structure, adding walls.
Yes, and the walls actually become the art. So whereas typically in a museum you would go in and build a new wall and they would hang prints on it, on this project we were actually building the art. So our wall actually becomes the art, and what you experience is the room that we built. So he shines intense lighting onto our walls, and it messes with your mind, basically.
You guys mentioned that normally you build something, but this was different because you're working with the artist. How was the approach different in the way this was constructed?
It was more of a, I think more of taking, it was a concept in somebody's head that he didn't, normally you get drawing, an owner has a concept and the architect takes that idea and puts it onto paper, and then we all, as contractors, that's what we focus on is, okay, someone has interpreted what someone's voiced, or whether their functional needs or aesthetic needs or whatever it is, and an architect is trained to take that and put it on paper, and we build from that. In this way, that there was, you kind of had more of an artist, so things were always changing. It was more, I don't want to say it was emotionally based, but he had a lot of things that were in his head that he knew he wanted to get out, and he's the architect. It's in his head, so transforming what he has in his head as the owner, but you have to go, the architect can't interpret it, because interpretation in this way is kind of muddies the art. So it was up to the contractors to understand, okay, as we build this, you tell us if we're building it in the direction that you want it, your vision's taking you. And so you don't have it all in front of you and around which you have a plan. It's taking and saying, here's our plan on how we're going to put this in place, and still check back with, are we working in the right direction? And if we're not, then we can go back and correct it. And in the contracting world, it's very black and white. It's drawn, you do it, and if you build it and it doesn't match that, then that was a mistake, and you need to you pay for that. But if it's a change, if I say, yeah, I did draw it that way as an owner or architect, and now I want it this way, well, it's documented. Okay, comparison says there's a difference. You pay for the difference, or there's a cost for the difference. And this way, there isn't anything to compare with. It's all in his head. So it relied on a relationship of trust that, if we made the mistake on our understanding what we built, then that trust us that we'll own up to that. But we're also trusting you that if we didn't do that, that you'll understand that as well. So, I mean, is that kind of
yeah? And Linbeck was the general contractor. They did a great job of bridging the gap between these concept and theoretical drawings that did make sense and possibly they'd used before, but taking that concept and then bridging from the artist, architect, down to a subcontractor who actually installing the work as to how to make this theory an actual tangible object and make it all come together, and it turned out to be a great team working event.
So communication between the artist all the way down, like you say, to you guys as subcontractor had to be frequent?
It was very frequent. We met on a weekly basis with the owners. The Museum of Fine Arts did a great job of hosting that and making sure that they were also involved in the communication process between Linbeck, James Turrell, Baltic Studios in New York, and the Linbeck team and us. Yeah, basically Linbeck hired Marek Brothers to do all trades except for the electrical work. So basically that included...
So that's framing, yes.
Yeah, the framing, the drywall, so chipboard, the finishing, which is a level 5 finish throughout, which is basically you're skimming the entire wall so you don't see any joints because they're going to be shining extremely bright projectors on it from Germany, side note.
The projectors are from Germany.
Yeah, the projectors are
Oh.
custom made in Germany. There's 3 of them on this project that are actually projections. But we also have the paint. We use a specific paint called Roscoe, which is a stage lighting paint. Very unique. You reduce it down with water, and then it takes several coats. I think it's 2 coats of primer and then 4 coats of the top coat, which typically on a normal wall is 1 coat of primer and then 2 to 3 coats of top coat. So this was an expensive but very nice looking paint, really high quality paint. And so then moving forward with that, we had the paint and then the carpet as well on the project. And I said gypsum earlier. We also used GRG, which is glass reinforced fiberglass, and that was for all of they call them knife edges. So particular coves, for instance, in the Gonsfeld, which is the center main exhibit, it has these 8-foot coves that are spaced something like 38 feet apart. So if you can imagine the structure, it's 38 feet wide and 20 feet tall, and then you have these 8-foot coves in 4 corners. So once you paint it with this white Roscoe paint, you go in there and it really disorients you and gives this illusion of you can't tell left, right, up, down, have zero depth perception. It's like flying through the clouds, as an aviator would say. Which James Turrell is also an avid aviator.
Oh, interesting.
So-
The layers of the paint and all these details so that you don't see the details. It's all to
Yeah.
mask all the corners and all the edges.
Absolutely, and it is very precise work. We had to go in and we thought we were good, and then you go in and you shine a light on it, and oh, there's one little speck. So then our finishers go and sand it down, refinish it, and then we repaint it 6 times, and then try and feather that out or make it look seamless and continuous, like there was never an issue there. It was definitely a challenge for our guys. But we see this challenge to install this, but we can provide what we think is a better solution, which was in this case the GRG and MDF board, which that also comprised parts of those knife edges, which are coming down.
And that wasn't originally called for.
No, it wasn't. It called out for like a hardwood tip and foam, let's say. And then we ended up using a GRG, which is made in a manufacturing plant up in Fort Worth. And then we installed an MDF tip or a hardwood tip.
MDF means?
Medium density fiberboard.
Okay.
Yeah, various random materials we ended up using. We did use some plastic laminate on it because some of these aperture openings and knife edges have to be down to less than a 16th inch of air because they're shining these lights behind it. So when you walk into this dark room, you would be able to see any deviation in it. So
Yes.
really interesting, to say the least. It was a fun project.
So your company, Marek, was able to bring their knowledge and expertise in materials to help get this artist's vision displayed.
Yeah, absolutely. That and the quality manpower with the knowledge to actually get it done, and the resources of manpower to get it done. With that over 10,000 man hours in 3 months, it's not a huge number, but when you think of what this is, and it's really only building 7 rooms, it's a substantial amount of work.